Hello everyone, this is Zibo and welcome to today's video. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about the rare range units of Guardian Tales. So just a disclaimer before I continue speaking, the tier list will be split into 3 different categories or 3 different tiers. They are S tier, A tier and B tier respectively. So S tier in comparison to all the other range units within this list. So we are talking about S tier when compared to all the other rare range unit, not all the other range unit within the game. And most of the S tier unit on this list, right, they'll be very feasible in the long run and they will serve multiple use within different teams. So you can safely invest in them if you want to, have a safe investment in the long run. And units in the A tier, they fit into specific niches and in specific situations. So they're not bad. They can be used, but they're very niche and they might not be worthy of your investment in the long run. And unit in the B tier, they don't really see much use now. They won't really see much use in the future, and I honestly don't think they will be feasible anytime soon unless an extreme makeover is given to them. So that's my take for the 3 different tiers. And today's tier list will be heavily based on PvE contents because for range units, especially rare ones, right, they ain't gonna see much use within the arena because either number 1, they have very poor stats, or number 2, their weapon skill is really bad. So you can try them, but they're just bad. I'm not gonna talk too much about that because there's only like maybe 1 or 2 of them that can be used in the arena, and maybe 3 or 4 if you include the future introduction of EX weapons. So that's it for the rare range unit in terms of arena. So today's evaluation will be heavily based on the PvE contents. And the last disclaimer before I begin, today's video will only be talking about the rare range unit. So we are talking about all these units from Gurgas all the way until Grammary. So don't ask me why this unit is not included. Like, don't ask me why Bianca is not included. Don't ask me why Gary is not included, because we are talking about rare range units and there's a lot of them. So I want to spend a bit of time to talk about each of them individually. So I don't want to make the video too long and I'm going to categorize into this category. And last disclaimer before I start today's video, this list is actually pretty relevant and I don't think it will change anytime soon unless super duper powerful EX weapon is introduced. And I believe the statements that I'm going to make is gonna remain true for very, very long. So feel free to use this to share it with your guildmates to let them know what the rare units that they can invest in the long run. So with all those disclaimers out of the way, let me begin today's video, and I'll start with the B tier first. So the 3 units in the B tier are Gurgas, Dolph, and Catherine in my opinion. So sometimes I might even put Marianne here, but Marianne is in the tier of A and B tier. So I'm going to put Marianne in the A tier first. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the B tier units. So Catherine, bad party buff because range defense is like one of the worst party buff in the game right now. Doesn't really solve much of an issue against range teams. And as you guys should have known from A-Left, right? Like that party buff is really bad. And Catherine doesn't really fit that well into the raids because for raids you want to be able to do as much damage as possible. So she isn't really the offensive type of water damage dealer. She's more of the defensive type because of her party buff and her stats distribution. So she isn't really that fantastic in guild raids. You don't really see people run her in guild raids. And yeah, even though she has an EX weapon, the EX weapon, right, the EX skill, right, it's quite strong. It's actually a homing skill. So she can see some use within arena, but it's more of a cheeky kind of thing because for people who know how to deal with her, especially in a melee meta that we are right now, right, you can just chase after her and hit her down. She's not that tanky, to be honest. So yeah, I don't think she will change much, right, unless they revamp how range defense work, make it more powerful, or they make damage increase or buff up. If not, I honestly don't see much value in Catherine, even though her stats distribution is pretty strong, but she's just not great in either modes of the game, right? PvE or PvP, and she's just like stuck in the middle of nowhere in my opinion as a water unit right now. So she's in the B tier for me. Then the next unit in the B tier is Dolph. So Dolph, very straightforward. He's the lowest defense unit, right? So he's super duper frail. And fire teams right now are very melee centric because for guild raids, right, you have like Vishuvek, right? You have Piltvice, you have Akayuki, you have Lin. So all these fire units, they are more melee centric. So most fire units, right, if you want to build a fire team, you'll be building a fire team based off the melee side of the spectrum. So Dolph being a range unit doesn't really have a place in that team. And even though weapon skill regen speed is a very good party buff, but oddly enough, right, Dolph's weapon skill regen speed is actually lower than Sohi. I don't know for what reason, right? Sohi is 30%, but Dolph is 28%. So in that aspect, he actually loses out a lot. Even though Dolph has a pretty high attack stats, and Dolph is actually pretty good if he doesn't take damage. But as you guys should have known for your guild raids and stuff, right? The higher level you go, the harder the bosses hit. So unless you have a super duper buffed up Dolph, right? Like with like max limit break with all your nodes awakened, he's gonna die really very easily within guild raids. And weapon skill regen speed only benefiting the leader within the raids doesn't make him any better. So that's why he's in the B tier. And before you say, given that high attack stats, why is Dolph not viable within the PvP content? His weapon skill is super duper slow. So in case you guys don't know what Dolph's weapon skill is, right, it's actually a meteor where he will take some time to channel before it lands on the target. So if you know how to deal with the weapon skill, you can simply run out the weapon skill and you'll not get hit. So Dolph is definitely not viable within the PvP content. So don't try to use him, okay? So that's why he's in the B tier. Then the next unit is Gergas. So Gergas face the same issue as Dolph, right? Fire range team are very melee centric. So even though he has a fire debuff in a chain skill, it's not that useful for most fire teams. And Gergas doesn't have an EX weapon yet. So Gergas might go up a tier if Gergas have an EX weapon. But as of now, right, he's not good in arena, no EX. He's not good in raid because he doesn't really fit well into the fire teams if you want to build a fire team. And yeah, overall, his stats isn't even that fantastic for you to even try to run him. So that's why he's in the B tier. So Marianne, I actually, I'm in a dilemma whether or not to put her in the B tier or in the A tier. So why do I want to put her in the B tier is because she's honestly slowly falling off the guild rates chart. Simply because there are way too many fantastic Earth units out there. Like people often invest in. So who are the good Earth units right now? You have Tiana, you have Bari, you have Rue as well. Even Alba does a good job, right? So this will actually make your Earth teams. And in most Earth teams, right, they don't just run pure Earth units. They actually add in a debuffer for your defense debuff or range defense debuff to maximize your raid damage. So Marianne did see some use in the earlier days of Garden Tales because there isn't that many strong Earth units yet, or there isn't really that many strong debuffer yet. But at the current state, right, Marianne is honestly falling off. Maybe I'll just put her in the B tier because yes, she still do damage, and yes, her skill is okay, but it's mediocre in my opinion. And you have way better Earth units to run other than her. So honestly, don't try her. And her weapon skill is one of those that is super duper hard to land within arena. So Marianne isn't really gonna see much use within arena also. So let us move on to the next tier, which is A tier. And the next unit in the A tier is Hakate. So make no mistake, Hakate is one of the strongest unit in terms of damage output in the game right now. Hakate number 1 doesn't have an EX weapon, so not at full potential. And number 2, her chain skill is really slow. Hakate is pretty flexible. She fits well into most range teams. She also fits well in your Earth teams as well. And if her EX weapon permits her, I think Hakate is kind of feasible in arena as well. It really depends. It's hard to say. But she's not in S tier because she doesn't have an EX weapon, mainly. Because she's not at her full potential, she definitely has room to grow. And other than that, right, why is she not in S tier? It's also because like I mentioned, her chain skill. So her chain skill actually is she will actually take aim at the target for like a few 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, I don't know, because sometimes it's a bit inaccurate. before shooting the target. So that bit of delay could screw up your chain skill timing, and that's why I group her in the A tier. And like mentioned earlier, there are other better Earth units over here. So Hakate is also slowly being phased out of Earth teams. Instead, she sees more use in range teams and even teams that require her crit hit buff. So her crit hit buff is gonna stay for quite a bit for big damage. So she's gonna be like between these two tiers, but for now she's in A tier because she got no EX weapon yet. And the next unit in the A tier is Rachel. So Rachel is one of the highest damage dealer within the water team right now, right? When combined with Garam, when combined with Bianca, she actually performs really well in guild raids. But the thing about Rachel is similar to Dolph, Rachel has one of the lowest defense. So Rachel is really frail. Sometimes she just get like 1 or 2 shotted by some bosses. Like you don't even know how she died. Even after equipping her with some defensive accessories, she's gonna still get 1-shotted by some bosses. So in terms of PvE contents, right, she isn't that fantastic. And even though she is able to deal out massive damage, her secondary ability gives her even more damage. But that secondary ability isn't really gonna proc most of the time. I'm gonna include the secondary ability on screen so you guys can read. So her secondary ability makes it such that her attack will increase if she doesn't take damage within 4 seconds. So the ability on paper seems really good, like oh my god, I'm going to control Rachel and not get hit for 4 seconds. But in actual fact, it's really hard to achieve within guild raids, especially if you're not running Rachel as your primary unit. So most people, right, in their right mind will not run Rachel as their primary unit, you know, unless they have a max out Rachel or what. So Rachel is gonna be relegated to your secondary unit. So if you put Rachel to the AIs, right, the AI can get pretty dumb. So there's a very high chance that she's gonna get hit by bosses' projectile or bosses' attack. So her special ability is rendered pretty useless most of the time. And combined with her weak defensive stats, even though she does do a lot of damage, make no mistake by the way, Rachel is extremely good in water raid teams and water teams in general, but she's just frail and you have other better choices than her, so I group her in the A tier. And the next unit in the A tier, sad to say, but I'll say Sohee, right? So Sohee, right, is one of those rare units that you can run in arena because now it's dark meta, and Sohee is this range unit that is slightly tankier and has the 30% weapon skill regen speed. So she is a bit visible within arena. You can see a bit of visibility, but other than that, you know, she doesn't really see much use within raids as well. She might see some use within orbital lift if you need a unit that can lower your weapon skill regen speed, but I think that's a minority case, so I won't really include that. And other than Tower Horizon Light and maybe guild raids, she isn't gonna do very well in all other game modes. And in guild raids, right, she isn't even that fantastic because your dark teams, right, I mean your light teams, you have Gabriel, you have Lapis, you have Eugene. So the mono light teams is a bit weird right now, I would say, because you have a mix of good range unit as well as good melee units such as Eugene, right, such as Lapis for raids. So she is like in a dilemma, like she's not gonna fit that well in the dark team because weapon skill regen speed isn't fantastic and her ability doesn't really proc unless she kills a dark unit as well. So she doesn't deal as much damage, so she's not optimal for guild raids. And other than the viability within arena, so he don't really see much use, so I'll put her in the A tier. Then I'll say the last unit to be in the A tier is Eva. So Eva is actually a very sleeper unit for guild raids. So I actually have this guildmate that max out Eva within the guild raid, and that guy does massive damage against dark bosses. So what do I mean by massive? So initially people sleep on Eva because her attack animation isn't that good and she's not gonna see much use within the arena. But at second glance, right, if you look at Eva's special ability, she hits 50% harder when she's attacked by dark enemies. So if you put her in a light team, and if you get hit by dark bosses, she's gonna deal 1.5 times damage. That means she hits really hard against dark bosses. And her stats distribution is actually pretty good because she has a good bulk and she has pretty decent attack. So in all honesty, even though she's not going to be viable as a arena unit, right? But her position as a light damage dealer within guild raids is gonna stay for quite a while because her damage output against dark bosses, right, is really good. So yeah, that's why she's in the A tier for me. And I'm gonna end off the tier list with the 3 S tier unit. They are Rie, Coco, and Grammary. So pardon me, I'm gonna just briefly talk about them. Very simple why they're here. Rie works in basic teams. Rie has a very good stats, and Rie doesn't have her EX weapon yet. So Rie works very well in range teams as well because crit hit buff is really good, and Rie has actually more stats than most range units. I don't know why, but Rie's stats, right, overall distribution numbers, or the number in terms of her attack, her defensive stat, as well as a crit hit chance, right, is really high. So Rie has an inbuilt 13% crit hit chance, and combined with her party buff, which is 33%, she's able to crit half the time on her own. So that's already higher than Hakate, and she hits faster than Hakate, and she does really well, right, in basic teams, because basic team needs that additional oomph right now to hit harder, and she's one of the core units for mono basic raid teams right now. So she's very feasible in basic team, and in range teams, right, because crit hit buff, like I mentioned for Hakate, works very well as well. So she's gonna fit well in range team. Basically, whatever team that Hakate can fit on, right, Rie is able to fit on it. And Rie has an additional benefit to be one of the core units for mono basic teams in guild raids. So that's why I group her in the S tier. And Rie doesn't even have an EX weapon yet. So I think if, let's say, she has a pretty decent EX weapon in the future, she might even be feasible within the arena given her distribution of stats, as well as given the OP-ness of the crit hit chance party buff. And the next two units, they are basically the same unit, or rather the same type of unit, and the main reason why they are in the S tier is because they are the premium debuffer within the game. They fit very well into many teams within guild raids. Coco, you have water team, you have dark team, and you can even fit her into melee teams, because defense debuff is such a valuable skill set to have for any units that these two units is going to be feasible anywhere, right? You can slap them into melee teams, slap them into rainbow teams, slap them into range teams, slap them into a respective elemental teams. They're going to work because they're going to decrease the defense of the boss, right, by 20%, and that is going to definitely increase your whole team's damage tremendously. So that's why these two units, they're going to be very feasible in the long run. And actually their EX weapon is pretty good in terms of dealing damage. So Coco's EX weapon allows her to fire like ice bolt every few seconds, right, and that deals 30% DPS. So imagine it over a course of 30 seconds, it's gonna do a lot of damage. And for Grammary, right, her EX weapon increases her range of her debuff, so it keeps her at a safer distance such that Grammary doesn't die so easily within the raids itself. So overall, these two units is gonna see a lot of use within the raid for very long time. And do remember to invest in these two if you haven't yet, you know, just a disclaimer. Okay, so this is a post recording from the previous recording. So I actually ended off the previous recording missing out one of the strongest S tier rare range unit in the game, because I couldn't find her sprite, or rather I kind of missed out on her sprite within the tier list, and this unit is none other than Elvira. So the reason why Elvira is in the S tier is very straightforward. Elvira has one of the best special ability where she's able to do 10% more damage per level higher than the opponent. So if your boss is at level 50 and she's at level 77, she's gonna do 270% additional damage. So this ability will fall off as you reach the higher stages of the bosses, but as the level cap continue to increase, right, Elvira's feasibility is just gonna become more and more you know, basically Elvira's position is just going to become better and better, because as level caps increases, she's just going to do more and more damage against lower level opponents. So she's also very feasible in most ranged teams right now. She's even feasible within water teams, simply because of the amount of damage she can output. So in water team, people actually equip her with blue roses, right? And in earth teams, some people even equip her with Marianne's EX weapon. So hold on, where did my Marianne go? The Marianne kind of fell off. Yeah, Marianne I put here. So basically, I left her out, and I won't really talk too much about her, because you can ask around all the other experienced players. Elvira is one of the best raid units around, and she will grow with time because of the level cap changes, and her special ability is just so fantastic for guild raid, and that's why I'm going to put her in the S tier. And that's it for this video. Thank you very much for listening to me talk about it until the end. And remember to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification button if you haven't done so. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!